This is a Galactic Network podcast.
The Podcast of Terror is a great podcast. It's covering movies that are not for children, and thus this podcast is not for children. The hosts are two adults who will use bad words from time to time. They'll also spoil movies if that's not your thing. So if you don't like spoilers and you don't want to hear some dirty language or some dirty references to dirty parts of your body, then please, please, please wash your body parts better and do not listen to this show. If you can handle it, and I hope you can because there's a great podcast coming up, then please proceed with Podcast of Terror.
Burn and fire, burn the fire. Burn and fire, burn the fire.
Welcome to episode 142 of the Podcast of Terror, production of the Galactic Network. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. I am Matt Stein. Corey is there. He's just being really quiet because I'm recording this after the actual episode because I got home a little late.
Yeah, I'm spent.
He is late tired. He brushed his hair. He's done for the night. Dunzo banana pants. Yeah. So joining us this week is going to be Deborah Voorhees. She was in Friday the 13th 5, which is unreal to say that someone that was in a Friday the 13th movie is on this podcast. But that's just one step closer to me meeting Kane Hodder, I guess. Or not. But yeah, here she comes. So we have a chat that people pop in and out of too. So if I ask random questions, they're coming from viewers. It's not ghosts or anything weird.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, so Deborah Voorhees, holy shit. I mean, I know you most from Friday the 13th, but you've done a laundry list of other things. And
Right.
As much as I would love to just talk about the fact that you're in Friday the 13th, like, we need to talk about everything you've done.
All right.
So I don't know where to begin. So if you want to just kind of give us a brief overview of everything you've done, for all I know, Friday the 13th was the least awesome thing you've ever done, in your opinion.
There you go. It could be.
Yeah.
You want me to start with my lemonade stand at 5, or
Sure.
do you want me to move forward faster?
Hey, if you want to start with the day that you were born and tell me about the weather, that's we can go there.
No. Well, actually, right now, as you know, I'm working on a film called 13 Fanboy. And it is about a stalker who is hunting down the women from Friday the 13th, his favorite characters, and with the intent to kill. It took me getting back into filmmaking. As you guys know, I was in Los Angeles in the 80s as an actress, and I kind of came back to it through, when you have a series of things go wrong, and sometimes it's fantastic because it just ends you in the place that you're supposed to. I was a journalist for well over a decade and worked with the Dallas Morning News, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And after I left that, I decided to go into teaching. I taught British literature, didn't really think about Friday the 13th biting me in the ass over it, but it did. And the school board, some parents didn't like the fact that I was nude in Friday the 13th, so I ended up getting thrown out of 2 high schools. Well, by that time, I'm just really struggling and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And great thing, though, is it led me back to filmmaking. And so at this point, I'm working on this horror thriller, and I think we have an amazing cast. We have CJ Graham, we have Tom Matthews, Judy Aronson, Tracy Savage, Ron Sloan. All of these people are from, Friday the 13th. I'm going to be playing a role in it. And I also wrote it with my producing partner, Joel Paul Rysick. And we also have, I guess, have you guys heard of Never Hike Alone? Mm-hmm. Got Vincent DeSante and Andrew Laety. Both of them are in it. And So we have just a super strong cast, and we're still hiring. And hopefully in the next few days, I'm going to have some really big news to announce too.
Yeah, I've always wondered. I mean, I saw, well, your first film appearance was as a hooker, which I thought that was kind of odd. But I've always wondered, because you hear a lot of like up and coming actresses and actors who get into horror, and sometimes they feel like they're just pigeonholed into it. And it's interesting to hear that you wanted to teach, and because of what you did in Friday the 13th, that kind of bit you in the ass. And,
Right.
And I guess I never really thought
What year
about it.
was that? About what time was that happened? How long ago?
The last school that I tried to work at is actually in the town I live in here in New Mexico. And that was 2009.
Oh,
Wow.
It wasn't like it was that long ago. But apparently people are still freaked out over the idea that there are boobs in the world. And I was like, yeah, they're boobs. We all have them. Men too.
Yeah, it's not like it was a gratuitous sex scene. Just
No.
topless. And it was...
I know.
Oh, man. Trying to do math. I mean,
Yeah, you saw my butt, but come on, you do too when somebody's wearing a thong on the beach.
well, that's you see more on cable TV now.
I know.
I stand by what the
there was
Simpsons
just
said.
we were just watching a news thing, and there was the comment made about how Beto, who just ran in Texas for senator, dropped an F-bomb in his conciliatory speech, and it was an F-bomb of pride.
Yeah.
About how proud he was of everybody who went out and voted and supported the things that they believed in. And it's kind of like, who gives a shit about that now? And who gives a shit about a lot of these things that used to be so taboo? But even 2009 just seems not long enough ago that would still have been a thing, that people can't understand who actors and actresses are and what playing a role is, and that nudity isn't a big deal. It's such a weird thing. I could and while I would not at all agree with it, and while I wouldn't agree with it, I could understand at least somebody saying, oh, well, we don't like that you were in horror movies. Because at least then there's like, okay, we don't want kids thinking about the violence and stuff that was enacted in that film.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, if they said, gosh, we feel like you were supporting violence or something, like you said, I wouldn't agree with them either, but because it's just a movie, it's folks. But no, that wasn't the argument at all. The argument was boobs.
Right.
And it's like, no, it doesn't make sense.
That is totally, that is a school that I wouldn't want my kids to be educated in, because I wouldn't want my kids to be afraid of the human body. I wouldn't want my kids to be the kind who would shun a woman breastfeeding her child or something because, oh, but there's a boob out. It just, for me, that makes no sense at all. And it's another thing that I just don't understand why we have such a disrespect for educators in this country as it is. And to look at these kinds of really flimsy excuses to get rid of somebody who loves to teach bothers the hell out of me. Right.
I was very fortunate. Well, it was very difficult being pushed out because I had kids that I very much so cared about. I was teaching senior English, and I was trying to get them legitimately graduated. And instead, the principal actually stole my book, my grade book, and gave everybody higher grades and passed people that were nowhere close to being passable yet.
Right.
I was trying hard to get them there, but I wanted them to get there for real, not just a made up grade that somebody writes down in a book.
Yeah, because it does them no good going forward.
Of course not. It doesn't at all. And so, I think the principal thought, or it was actually an assistant principal that did that, but I think he thought that by doing that, he would get the kids on his side because everybody got a better grade because I was gone. But my kids fought for me. They went to the superintendent, they went to the principal, they talked to the school board. And while they didn't win, it was awfully, awfully heartwarming to see that.
Yeah. But they didn't win. And that's, again, it shows a disrespect for the children.
course.
which is, again, so we don't really care what the kids think. It's what we think as parents and who we judge. And that,
right.
and I understand wanting to protect your kids, but I just don't know
From
what
what,
they're
though?
protecting them from.
That's the thing. And everyone has the internet in their pocket. You can find so much worse, so much quicker on the internet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's weird that you got the job and then were kicked out after.
Right.
They never looked up to see who you were beforehand.
You would have thought.
This is why I don't like people in general.
I'm with you sometimes.
I know. It's like I always find it weird to tell people that I do podcasting as a hobby, and then also in the same sense be like, yeah, but I really hate like everyone. I just don't really care for a lot of people, and it's because people suck. And this is just another example of why people suck.
Yeah.
That's really
Well, we also see more protection of child predators than we do of actual valued educators. It's a grim mess out there. But I mean, I don't want to dismiss that happening. It is to our benefit as people who obviously weren't in an age to go to school where you were teaching, but we get to see films and stuff again, which is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. It is. So in it's like all things in life. We can either move forward and change a negative into something positive. And, that was just my choice. I wanted to make things better in my life. And I was like, I want to get back into filmmaking. And I'm so glad I did, because I've been telling stories all my life. I love making shit up. So keep doing that.
Yeah, that's really good that you could take something that's a really shitty situation and like make it good.
Right. Yeah. It ended up being a blessing. So.
And I mean, I guess it works out for us too.
Yeah.
Here because of that. So thanks, Super Nintendo Chalmers, for. I guess it wasn't him, it was the principal. But I did want to mention a Simpsons reference where Marge says Fox became a hardcore pornography channel so slowly that I didn't even notice it happened. Which I'd like to point out that there was Fox, and then there's FX, and now there's FXX, and very soon they will probably have FXXX, which will be the porn channel. Just throwing that out there. One other thing I wanted to ask you about. I don't have questions. These are just things that come up in the squirrel brain. So I don't. And I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I gotta know, what is it like to be the subject of that Wolfie's Just Fine song?
Oh my gosh, it was such an honor. I even got to meet John LaJoy. You guys probably know that he was one of the lead characters in the League.
In the League, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I was blown away when I saw that. I really was. I think it is one of the. It is an amazing video. It's beautifully acted. The music is wonderful. The directing, the editing, the color grade, everything was just so well done. And I love the story of that young man. I look at that and I'm like going, my God, this is a movie. This should be a movie. It needs to be a movie. Because think about it, the angst of a young boy growing up in a Pentecostal type family that's brought all this shame and stuff and all the things that he has to do to, get free of that kind of stuff. It's really, I think it's a fabulous story.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me because, like I said, I mean, I saw this movie long before I ever thought I would ever talk to you. But it was the same situation where it's like we were in high school, and what we used to do on Friday nights was we'd go rent a stack of horror movies and watch them.
Right.
So it's like being, 16, 17, 18 and seeing a naked woman in a movie. And when Corey and I started this podcast, it was always a joke. Or it was like, does the movie have boobs or not? Because so many horror movies just have boob scenes. I guess it comes with the territory. But
right.
Going through the reviews of Friday the 13th, New Beginning, a lot of the reviews are, it does what it's supposed to do. It has creative deaths. It has nudity. You know, it has all these things. It's like so many people died, and it is weird that is part of the rating system for horror fans. That is what they kind of look for. It's what we associate with slasher fix, and good or bad. And I don't think there's anything bad about it. I think
I don't either.
But it's funny how ingrained those things are to us in that style of film, that if it doesn't include that, then they cheaped out or something. And I don't agree with that. I think it's up to the actress and it's up to the filmmakers. Right. But I do it. Yeah. Like Matt's saying, when I was a kid, that was what we used to watch. We'd watch horror movies and there was an expectation that we were going to see a topless scene in it at least. And that was part of the titillation of it, but it was always strange that you were going to get that scene and inevitably you were then going to see that person be mutilated.
Right.
And that's what that song really tells, is the effect that has on a kid. Is this woman who in any other situation, I would just be like, I would be drawn to her. I would fall in love with her. I create this situation in my mind where we're together. And then immediately she's killed in a horrific way. And I have to deal with all these feelings at once. And yeah, that was the genius of that song and that video to me. Right.
Yeah. The young man who played that role, I don't think he could have been more than 8 in it. So that's pretty young. Think about it. At 8, you're still saying out loud, "Ooh, yucky girls," but you actually, my grandson, he definitely, he says, "Ooh, yucky girls," but I know he likes girls.
Yep.
He's obsessed with them, but won't admit it. And I don't know. I think there's something really beautiful and sweet. I can't tell you how many fans told me that I was the first nude woman they ever saw. And for a young boy, it was it's a really special moment when that happens, because it's, the body is a wondrous thing. And, we have these natural instincts so that we procreate and keep making more babies. And so I don't know. I think it's sweet. I think it's really neat, actually.
So when we were watching last night, after we watched Lost Boys, my wife and I put on Friday the 13th in the beginning. And when we got to your scene, my wife was like, "I want boobs like that."
I'll give them to her.
She would happily take them. I think my wife is perfect. So I don't have any issue with who she is now, but it's still like, that's the thing, is that a woman's body is something that can be admired by men and women for different reasons or the same reasons.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know if I remember exactly the part that you played in it, but you were also in Avenging Angel, which is a movie that I remember watching a lot on late night cable when I was a kid. You were on an episode of Riptide, which was one of my favorite shows as a kid. So, I probably admired you several times over in my adolescence.
I would just say that I admired you in Dallas, but I only know that because I'm looking at your IMDb. Because I was born in '85. Real quick, we have a question in the chat. Schlitzy, which is oddly enough, he gave me my first tattoo.
Oh my goodness! Oh, cool.
Yeah, I knew he was a big horror fan, so I'm honored he's here. He's curious, how will 13 Fanboy be affected if the Indiegogo comes up short?
Not at all. Most of our money's coming from investors. So I don't think we will come up short, but I think we're going to do terrific. We only announced this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's come a long way in a very short period of time, and spreading things across social media is not that easy, especially with the algorithms that, about 1%. So I feel like we've done actually extremely well.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Facebook has done everything it can to take Page's impacts away from people, because you've got a very busy fan page that you,
Right.
you run and have people that are extremely active on.
Right.
And have some people that we know. Tori is a friend of ours, and she's big on your
neat.
page.
Right. Yes,
Um,
yes.
Melissa
I
from
love
Horror
Tori.
Geek Life is on there too. I've seen her
Yeah.
posting.
Yeah.
And these are people that that we were kind of like, oh, great, Deborah Voorhees, that's amazing.
I love
but-
both of them.
But yeah, the social media aspect of it is difficult because social media wants its cut of everything,
Right.
and that kind of makes it difficult to say, hey, I've got all these people who are really into what I'm doing,
Right.
and I have this way that's supposed to be how I can communicate with them directly. And
Right.
now I can't because Facebook doesn't want me to unless I give them more money. And even then, it's not a
Right.
promise that it's going to reach everybody. It's going to reach a higher percentage, maybe, of hopefully
Right.
their prepared people.
Right. Exactly. So I feel like in 2 weeks, we've gotten started to get lots of interviews. iHorror wrote about us. Tori's Pop Horror did. Melissa with her Horror Geek Life did. Movie Web picked us up. So, we're making tremendous strides. So the main thing is just getting it out there and getting people to know. And, we do have an Indiegogo campaign, as he brought up. It's 13 Fanboy. You just go there and every little bit helps. You get 1,000 people doing $13. That's, $13K. That's a lot of money. So it adds up fast. So as people get to know about it, I think we'll start having a snowball effect. Plus, we have some pretty amazing news coming up too. So,
and the Indiegogo isn't as much. You already said that you're likely to get your funding from outside of it. It
Right.
seems like Indiegogo is more for the fans and what they get out of it.
Right.
You give
Absolutely.
them a lot of opportunity to get things that they would not have a chance to otherwise, including getting producer credit in the film.
Exactly.
Which is
exactly.
incredible.
This is for the fans. It's to get them involved and let the people that are the really hardcore, Uber fans get in there and have a part of it. They get to be a piece of making this film. It's not just a matter of me going and saying, oh, hi, I'm going to go off now and I'm going to make a movie and hope you guys like it. I'll see you in a year and a half when we're done. So
part of
this is having them I want them a part of it the whole way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Part of, the downside to crowdfunding is that there are a lot of projects that are like that, where it's just like, give me your
Right.
money and then I'll see you later. I think I crowdfunded something like a video game in 2012 and I still don't have it. It's not even done.
Right.
And
Oh.
they promised it in like 18 months. And I'm like, I get it that it's kind of gambling in a sense. Like there's
Right.
no guarantee you're getting anything. But
Right.
it hasn't stopped me. I donated money to you. Schlitz said he did too. Well, regardless of our relationship, I would have funded it anyways because of my interest in what it is. So
Right. Thank you.
could have given me the finger and I wouldn't have changed my mind on doing it. So, but I appreciate
I
it.
would not do that to you. If I ever say fuck you, I'll be saying it very nicely. You know me. You have to look at how Tina says fuck you. It's not a mean thing.
That's funny. Oh, that's the highlight of my weekend right there. But yeah, and that's, I guess that's kind of something that you have to combat is people, everyone's skeptical because people suck.
Sure.
People are terrible.
Right.
But the people that you have involved in this film are the people who are part of the horror community that have
Right.
each of their own fan base, but it's because of who they are and because they've been so warmly embraced, because
Right.
they embrace it back. That's why
Right.
you're likely to have people want to support each of you, let alone
Right.
a project as big with all of you involved.
Right.
That's the whole thing, is that I don't think anybody's going to say, oh, well, I think they're just going to take my money and cut and run because they know who you are.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I had 2 questions. I'm out of stuff now. Corey, you have any topics to come up with?
No, not really. I mean, I can sit here and gush over this person that I obviously had an adolescent crush on.
I think we all did. So
yeah,
I think she's used to that.
I think. Yeah, I'm excited because you came from something that a lot of people consider very lowbrow in the types of films, the midnight films and stuff that you did. But you obviously, as an educator, you are not strictly lowbrow. You have an appreciation for it, but you did Billy Shakespeare, which kind of walks a cusp, but you can tell that you have a love for literature. And that came out in what you do. And I think that that's kind of amazing because it shows that what people think of when they think of horror movies is one thing. And people who make horror movies are capable of a lot more. And what I get excited about is when those walls kind of break down and you get that additional stuff into the genre.
Right. Well, this particular piece, I think the fans are going to really respond to, and it kind of goes into what you're saying, is this idea of I'm really going to be marrying two different worlds because it is a horror thriller. Think of the movies like Hush and Cape Fear, that intensity that's there, and then marrying it with, the great horror kills that the fans love so much, and bringing them the people that they love so much. I mean, the horror fans have been waiting for a lot of these people to come back on screen since they were in Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So, after fan talked to me about this, it just made sense to me. Let's do it. Because I've been looking for a while for something for everybody. And I'm really excited about it. We have so much going on right now. I have an incredibly strong producer. He has 25 films under his belt. Every single film he's made, including his first, he got distribution for. I don't know a filmmaker you can say that about, unless they're inside the studio system or have major bucks backing them. So I feel like this is something that the fans are really going to gravitate toward. But I also think has strong possibilities for crossover appeal to a thriller audience as well.
So I guess one question I have, because a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, once or twice, and I can't even think of a specific example, so this is really making my case even worse.
Okay.
But sometimes you'll have a movie where with this type where it's kind of have like a satirical humor to it. So this movie is not like that at all, correct?
No, it really isn't. Not that, we won't have a little bit of comic relief in it. But it is very much a thriller. It's very intense. It's, and at least this is my goal, the edge of your seat kind of feeling. And you're going to be very invested in the characters. So in one hand, Friday the 13th is that film that everybody goes and sees, and it's not going to happen. You're not going to dig up Jason, and he's not going to come up out of the grave and start killing people. Yes, you still get the booze and the scares and stuff, whereas this is something that could actually happen.
Now I'm interested. Obviously, it's such like a cool idea to like. Have you seen Human Centipede?
I haven't seen that one. No,
I'm not saying like go run out and watch it, but
okay.
The first one, obviously, you're familiar with the concept of it. But the second movie happens as if the first one was a movie you could see. So the guy doing the Human Centipede in the second movie is a huge fan of the first movie and wants to mimic it, and that's how he comes up with the idea. Same thing with the third, where the warden in the third loves the second movie so much that that's what he's going to do to rehabilitate. So it's
okay.
It's a really good concept to think of something as like someone who's so obsessed with something that they want to mimic it.
Right.
So it's a really intriguing idea and concept, and I'm really curious how you're going to present it. I'm sure it'll be great.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We just did a live chat in my group with Tom Matthews, and it was really exciting. Obviously, the fans were just thrilled to be able to see him. But I think the way he put it, I was really pleased with. He said it's intense. It has all kinds of twists and turns, and it's nothing like what you think.
Which is awesome because so many horror movies you see now, and I don't know. I guess a question I do have is like, do you even watch horror movies?
I do. Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered, is like, did you just end up getting into a horror movie because that's what you could act in, or were you a fan?
Right. Well, now beforehand, I've always been a huge chicken. I really, I still to this day, I won't watch a horror movie by myself. I will with my husband there. But if he wants to, if it's in a really scary part, and he's much more laid back about it, and he'll want to go wander off into the kitchen and go grab something, and I'm the one that's going, pause it, don't you? So he has to pause it, go grab something, and if it's really scary, I'll follow him. I'm following him and following him back.
I guess, what movies do you consider to be really scary?
The ones that scare me the most, honestly, are ghost stories.
Okay.
Like the Insidious kind of movies, Conjuring, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That really scares me. Oh, Hush scared me. A Quiet Place.
Such a good movie.
Real intense. Hush, because it's so realistic. It took me a long time to get the nerve up to see that. A friend of mine, Nathan Barker, said, watch it. And I was like, okay. Oh, I think it was Eric Walford too. I said, watch this. And I'm like, I saw the thing on it. I was like, oh, wow, woman's worst nightmare. I don't know if I want to see this. And so finally I worked up the nerve to watch it. And yeah, it scared the shit out of me, but it was so good and so well done.
So do you, and feel free to not answer this, but do you live in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we moved to the middle of nowhere after I saw that movie. And up until now, I never thought about it. But it's like a lot of that movie, the scary part about it is the fact that, A, she's deaf and she lives in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So Chris mentioned Haunting of Hill House. I don't know, have you watched it at all?
I saw the first episode.
And no go?
No. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to watch it.
My wife was not impressed, so I probably gonna have to finish it myself, which isn't a big deal.
Yeah, it scared me. It definitely did.
It didn't scare me. Have you? I guess sidetrack a little bit, but have you ever had a ghost experience at all?
I have, and I'm one of those people that, in the light of the day, when I'm moving about and I'm feeling really comfortable in the world, I don't really believe in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It gets dark outside and you're watching a ghost movie before you know you're doing this. And start to wonder. But I have had experiences I cannot explain. And so, I think that's why they scare me so bad, is prove they're not true. Prove they're not real.
Exactly. And I think that's part of a slasher movie is, I guess you could make an argument for, because there are people out there who do things that are pretty close to what are done there, but some of the demon and the more supernatural and out there horror movies are easier to just write off because they don't exist, whereas ghosts, I've had 2 encounters very different times. I have a picture on my phone where you can very clearly see a kid sitting in front of a box that was not there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's usually when people are like, well, I don't believe in ghosts, I'm like, then explain this.
Explain this, right?
I saw it. I was there with 4 other people, and no one else saw it. Yeah.
So you saw it, as well as it wasn't just on the image on your phone then?
Oh, no. I could not see it with my naked eye. I only saw it with a picture.
Oh, gotcha.
So
okay.
my wife and I were down in Orlando. I guess I'll tell you the story. But we went on a ghost tour. There was a hotel that they said was really haunted, so you could sign up, and we went. And it was weird because there was a random rave outside that same night. So it was really loud and there was a lot of lights and it was kind of distracting, but you went upstairs to the top floor, which they now only used for storage. And they take like the flashlights where the backs screw on. And when they're screwed all the way tight, that's when they turn on. So they would turn it to a point where it was just loose enough where it wouldn't really turn on. And then they would ask spirits questions and then the flashlights would turn on and off because of the electrical energy or whatever.
Right.
And the tour guide was like, just take random pictures and see what's there. You know, as we're asking questions, just look around and take pictures. And this is, you know, sometimes you'll get something. And the tour guide had asked like the age of the spirit or whatever. And we were getting responses to it being a child. And that she just straight out said like, are you a young child? And then the flashlight turned on. And that's when I took the picture. And it's at just a stack of boxes. And there was like 3 and then 1. And in front of the 1, you just see what looks like a kid with his hands sitting on the box.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's fucking creepy.
Wild.
Yeah, they were super nice. Like, I say that, you know, but there was one point where they had asked if the ghost was malicious and like the lights turned on super bright. And she's like, we got to get the fuck out of here. And the other couple we were with were, they really seemed to want to like meddle a little bit. And they're like, we'll take you home. And the tour guide's like, don't fucking say that. I'm like, yeah, some weird shit's going to happen. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. And
wow.
I've always been really interested in it. You know, I've had experiences shortly after friends have passed away. And I've always wondered, you know, there's got to be something else.
Right. My Mikey mom, she was a nurse in the Army, and she was stationed in Germany, and she went to one of those really big, like it was a big graveyard, but you know the kind that when you go inside, I'm running blank on the name, but it was a big internment with a
mausoleum.
Yeah, mausoleum. Thank you.
Yeah.
And inside the mausoleum, she wasn't supposed to take any pictures, but she did. And she had a slide, and you could see the casket and everything. And above it, floating above it, was a kneeling, praying monk. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it.
I've also felt, you know, I felt hands on me before when I'm wide awake. No one's there.
This I grew up like my dad is as fucking Catholic as they come. So I went to a Catholic grade school. My mom's Lutheran, went to a Lutheran high school. I dated a girl who was, I don't even know what it was, but they were kind of like snake handling type church. And I used to have a lot of headaches when I was younger. This is in high school, and this is probably because I'd stopped taking care of myself and drank Mountain Dew. But she's like, well, come over. My parents are having a prayer group. I'm like, whatever. I want to touch your boobs. I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I shit you not. I have no good way to explain this. But they're like, just stand here and close your eyes. And there was 2 people that were probably about 4 feet in front of me. And I had my eyes closed, and they were praying over me. And I just all of a sudden felt 2 hands on my chest. And I opened my eyes, and they were still like 4 feet away from me.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, just let it happen. And so I did it again, and I felt it again, and it just knocked me over. And then I just laid there, and I was like, holy fuck. And couldn't explain it. I mean, their basement was full of people, and there was no one anywhere near me, and everyone's like, no one touched you. Can't explain it. Yeah, it's insane. Like, I don't even think I did drugs that day.
Yeah, no, I've had some strange experiences. I understand. I don't know what they are. I don't know that I can't say that I understand them just like that.
Yeah.
You know, that I understand it. I don't know. But yeah, there are things we don't understand in this world.
Oh yeah, I agree. And that's the same as whatever your religious beliefs are. That's your thing. That's not mine.
Right.
But all I've ever told people when they come up is it just says like, just respect mine and I'll respect yours. I don't care if they're different.
Right.
Just
Right.
because it's bigger than just you and what you believe. I think it helps you try to like comprehend what happens. And there's just
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what beliefs are for. It's to help people comprehend. And, more than likely, none of us really understand it. None of us really know what's out there. It's highly unlikely. But, whatever helps you get through the day, I think is okay. As long as you're not hurting anybody else with it.
Yep. Gives you the warm, fuzzy feeling.
Problem. Yeah. As long as somebody isn't, the only type that really gets me pissed off are the ones that are, everybody's damned to hell but them. It's
Right.
like, yeah, that judgmental thing is doing you, isn't it?
Yeah, we had we're not sure if they were Mormon or I can't remember the other one that comes to your door. But like because like I said, we live in the middle of nowhere, and so I have like a motion camera over our driveway, so I got like a video of them walking up to the front door, and those people piss me off.
Yeah.
Because I listen to a lot of death metal. And for you to tell me that just because I listen to that kind of music that I'm a bad person and I'm going to hell.
Right.
You.
Go with when they come to the door, what you do is you say, "Oh, wonderful, please come in." About my savior Satan.
Yeah, we need a couple more hands for the goat sacrifice if you don't mind stopping in.
That's right.
Fucking people.
I know.
What else?
Have you guys seen the new Sabrina that's out?
No, but I heard
Yeah.
I heard they're getting sued by the Church of Satan.
Oh, really?
Oh, you didn't hear that? Yeah, the Church of Satan is suing Netflix and one of the other production companies for like $50 million because of the use of the Baphomet statue in Sabrina.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope they don't win because I love that show. I think it's really good. That's ridiculous. What is it? The Catholic Church going to sue somebody for having the cross? Oh, please. I hope they bite it on that one.
Yeah, that's weird to me. I don't know the full context of what exactly they're suing for. But
the Satanic Church these days is very much in the judicial and political frame of mind because they're doing it to be the counterpoint to other religions that are trying to push themselves more and more above and put the laws into their frames as opposed to other people's. And so the Satanic Church is like, hey, if you're saying that it's okay to have religious idolatry here in this Capitol building, then legally you have to allow us to put our religious idolatry up in it too. And so that's where you have the Baphomet statue. And I think they probably have a copyright on their particular Baphomet. And that's why they're trying to do it. Because if you don't protect your copyrights, then you can very easily lose them. If you don't show that, hey, this is... I
don't know how they would get a copyright on that. It'd be interesting to find out if they did.
So Beat says it is for copyright. It's not defamation. It's only copyright. And I don't know if it's because... I think it's the same as the Baphomet statue that they built like down south. And, but like you said, like how do you have... Like, I'm going to make a statue of Jesus, and then I'm going to copyright the fuck out of it. And if anyone uses it, I'm going to just be like,
and then nobody else can use it. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'm wondering if I have my Buddy Christ statue
really good.
So I have not watched it. I admittedly have not watched it. But I remember Sabrina from TGIF when I was a kid, and I don't know. I hear this one's like dark and real
nothing
gnarly.
Like that. Because when I first put it on, I thought I was going to get, it was one of those things where, well, we'll just try one episode and see how it is. And I was expecting it to be pretty smallsy and, nothing that I would really want to see. And I figured I'd get 5 minutes into it and be done. And no, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same guy who does the Riverdale show, and he wrote the comics that were more adult and horror-driven takes on these characters for Archie Comics as they started to expand beyond what they've been for the last 50-something years. So he's got a really good frame of mind and is doing something interesting. I think, in my opinion, it probably works better with Sabrina and the themes of her character than it does for me than the Archie and Betty and Veronica stuff, where they've turned it into kind of a Twin Peaks kind of feel. Which is weird because I love Twin Peaks and I love Archie comics, but for some reason those two don't really mix together for me. And it's probably more the melodrama of the CW stuff too.
Right.
But all that said, the Sabrina thing looks genuinely interesting and fun. And they've got great people involved in it. So it's one of those things I expect to get to, but there's a few different things I've got to catch up on right now before I dedicate myself to yet another series.
Right. I understand.
Is it just like a one season thing, or are they doing more?
I expect they'll do more.
Yeah. Well, assuming they can get out of this Satan thing.
That'll be an easy payoff. And again, I believe it probably is more to do with the church has to defend their copyright. Just to,
I would really have to question, is it even, could that really hold up that a church could even be allowed to have a copyright on something like that? Because what if the Catholic Church decided to go out and I'm going to have a copyright on the cross?
Well, they have to prove that it was something that they had control of in the first place. If you created your own version of the cross, then maybe. I'm sure that the Church of Scientology, if they have any kind of ideology, probably has copyrights on all that stuff because it's full of Hollywood lawyers. I would that more and more modern religions probably do that, but ancient religions would have a harder time because of how many years. At a certain point in time, copyright runs south. It's supposed to end unless you're working for Disney or Warner Brothers. So, yeah, it's
as a judge, I would declare that religions can't have a copyright. I don't think that makes sense.
I would agree with you.
So it sounds like the copyright is on a statue referred to as Baphomet with children, which is what was built 5 years ago in response to religious displays on public property.
Okay.
That seems to be what was shown in the Sabrina series, and that's what they're suing for.
I see. I think they would probably have to prove that maybe, because even if they make like 10 changes, I think it is, then they can use it. I don't know. Can't imagine them taking such care that they copy it exactly.
Well, if you went and you bought, I'm not sure of the intricacies of this, but if you went and you bought a statue at your local Hot Topic that was sculpted by somebody to be sold at Hot Topic that looks like a god figure, but really isn't. And so someone went and they made this piece of art, and then a person went and they bought it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to put this in the background of my show." And then the person who created it is like, "Hey, you can't just display my stuff in your show without giving me credit and without offering me some sort of payment."
Right.
And it might be as simple as that. It might be that they took a Baphomet statue off the shelf somewhere that the Satanic Church sells, and that's what they're suing over. I don't know for sure.
And too, that would even say more so that they shouldn't, because if they're selling the damn thing, then if you happen to use it, I really don't see a problem with it.
It's kind of like free advertising.
Right, exactly. I know they should be just going, "Hey, cool, come join us."
Right, which is strange. Like I agree. Like you'd think they would be like, "This is awesome. This is free publicity," but I don't know. Like there's a picture if you Google the story, it'll show the bronze statue that was originally built, and then how it was or what was shown in Sabrina, and it looks. I mean, it looks like a white marble or a stone statue in the show.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's definitely not bronze.
Yeah, so I think that's probably what they're pissed about is that they just rebuilt the same exact statue. And that was something that they paid, it says about $100,000 to design and build. And I don't know. I guess if someone stole something of mine and put it in a TV show and it came back to me, I'd be hard pressed.
Well,
to
let me ask you, if you were making, let's say you make Mask and you stole them all the time, and then one of them shows up in a TV show, would you really be upset about it, or would be like, oh, cool, look, now I can do free advertising and say, hey, they used this in the show? I would be going, cool, they used it in the show because they obviously bought it from you.
Yep. I guess I would be pissed if they used it in the show and then re-released it under their own brand.
Like what happened
Right.
to Jonathan Coulton and
Right.
the Baby Got Back version of his song that he did on Glee.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan Coulton covered Baby Got Back and did a completely new version of it, but it's not his song,
Right.
but the musical arrangement was his. Glee
Right.
covered Baby's Got Back on the show, but they didn't credit Jonathan Coulton, even though the musical arrangement they did was exactly his. And I think even where he changed the lyrics slightly, they followed the same exact lyric change. And so he's like, hey, guys, just give me credit. You know, let me know that you're going to do this and stuff. And they were fighting everybody on copyright stuff at that point in time. So they didn't give a shit.
Interesting.
And so he re-released the song again, saying, as made famous on the episode of Glee. But it's a crappy thing to do when people take your stuff that you created and use it as their own. Because part of it is that the next person who says, oh, I'm going to take this thing that I saw on this TV show and make my own Baphomet statue, is therefore not giving credit to where it originally came from. They might say, oh, as featured on the Sabrinas show on Netflix. And it's like, no, that's ours. We made that. My wife's, and if someone stole her art off of her Instagram and sold t-shirts of it, we would be pretty upset. And that happens to artists on the internet all the time. Matt is in a band, and his band, the last couple albums have been kind of political. I say they refraining from really
the last one ended up on like a Russian download website. I was like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, but that's a little different. But what if someone that you guys didn't agree with politically started using your song as the backdrop for their ads? And, because that happens to Art, that happens to Fleetwood Mac. You know, they're like, hey, please don't use our music. We really disagree with
that.
political.
Right.
Yeah, if Donald Trump used one of our songs as like his walkout music, I'd probably have a problem.
Yeah, he gets some angry thrash music from you guys that becomes like the I'm against the caravan coming here. And you're like, oh, Jesus, you know? This.
Well, it'd be really funny when he figured out that it's probably written about him.
Yes.
Right.
Terrible.
But he'll just say that that's fake news and
whatever. But think all the
you don't know your own music.
They tell me I was wrong. Well, all I do is write the drums. I don't, whatever.
Yeah. You usually are wrong.
I'm married. I'm wrong all the time.
That's how I like to play it.
Yeah. Wow. I'm really impressed at how we got to the bottom of this Baphomet statue situation.
Yeah, and I'm going to definitely check into it. Sounds interesting.
Hey, if you like Satan and drinking, a buddy of mine has a glassware company. He's got a Baphomet glass. Just throwing free publicity for friends of mine. Random Press on Instagram. You can get drunk and stare at Satan. I suppose we should talk about Lost Boys.
Yes.
This is where Corey has to.
For the episodes, we would have to look at the stuff that was public domain, so we weren't putting art onto the episode from the movie itself that, you know, not that anybody's going to sue us. We're not making any money off of this, but they could come after us and say, hey, you know, it's not cool that you used the still from my film. We got an episode pulled down where we just reviewed a movie. We got pulled down for copyright infringement because they didn't like a review.
Too. That was so weird.
Well, one thing you can do is just mark it as that it's okay, because they go really overboard on that stuff. Because if you're reviewing a film, then using images is not only okay, but it's appreciated and it's expected.
But
you look at YouTube, you look at Facebook, they really get pretty crazy about that sort of thing. Some of the things they flag as problems is pretty huge. You know, the shot of me where I'm laying on the blanket, and you know, it was cropped. I mean, it was, didn't use, like, you didn't see the boobs or anything. It was cropped. Facebook wouldn't let it be used in an ad because it was suggestive nudity. We're talking about shoulders.
Right.
So,
Well, shoulders lead to arms lead to torso, leads to boobs.
Exactly. They all know where we're going with this.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So it's kind of a strange thing, but yeah, you shouldn't have any problem like that. Just mark it that it's okay, and you shouldn't hear any more from it. Other than, I don't know, maybe somebody sent them a note and said that, and that who didn't understand about copyrights. But and I think you can use clips like, isn't it 10 seconds? Isn't that what the rule is? Up to 10 seconds.
I'm not sure specifically what it is. I knew it was a percentage in certain situations. So it was like 3 or less % of the total. I think it's music though, but I think it's that 3 or less % of the total length of the song can be used.
Okay.
Movies might be 10 seconds. But the thing is there was no clips of the movie. All we used was our picture for the post, and that was it. And that wasn't even shown.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, and I had messaged. So we used to do, because our podcast is under the Galactic Network. We used to stream under Galactic Network, and then when we got flagged for that, the entire channel got banned for 90 days for streaming. So that's why we started our own.
Wow.
I had messaged E1 and asked them, I'm like, hey, I'm just curious. Like, we're not complaining. We're not arguing. I just want to know why, so I don't do it in the future. And they never responded.
Oh,
so
interesting.
I don't know if they just it was an auto flag and that was.
I think it was an auto flag. I bet you they didn't know anything about it.
Probably not.
And it was just from YouTube.
In our chat is our friend of the show, Beatmaster, who helped me with that. We were trying to figure out what to do. And he points out that if you try to fight it and you lose, like YouTube will just bend you over and fuck you 2 ways from Sunday. It's kind of ridiculous, and it's like we're trying to help everybody here. Like,
absolutely,
and it was mind-boggling because we didn't say we both liked the movie, we both gave it a favorable review, talked highly about it, and it was like,
Which movie was it?
A Christmas Horror Story.
Okay. I'll bet you anything it wasn't E1. I'll bet you it was just YouTube.
Yeah, which is fine.
I've had stuff online flagged before, and they'll say that this is copyrighted or that copyrighted. And it was like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And first of all, I have permission, and I just check it off and say, and then I'm never bothered again.
Yeah, it just said it contains copyrighted material, I believe. There was no specific, and it never told us what it was.
Right,
and it was kind of a situation where it's like, well, if you can tell me what is copyrighted, like maybe we can explain this, or I can remove it. And we just never told us anything. So now we go over here and we're not monetized because YouTube is not our source of income. It's just this. It's the easiest way for us to record.
Right.
So it's.
And it's an easy way to share. It's an easy way to stream live so that people can show up in the chat and be a part of it while we're recording. They can watch it. We want to be in as many places as people can find us for their convenience. Even though the experience, I think, is better from the audio perspective because this isn't a show usually to watch. And
unless you want to watch me drink for an hour.
The show is cleaned up usually for the audio. But yeah, it's more of a bummer because an entity like YouTube can't get their hands into every single thing. So they automatically have to block something to protect themselves, from the years of the Viacom lawsuits and everything. It's just, this is the way that the business is now. It sucks because for a lot of people who do make a living on YouTube, they don't really have a way of getting this stuff worked out. Because you send something in and you hope that somebody will get back to you. But unless you've got someone behind the scenes who actually knows you and you know them and you can contact them directly, it will sit there for months and you just might be losing your entire income for that amount of time, hoping that it will get resolved. And often it has nothing to do with what you did. Somebody flagged it for no reason, sometimes just to troll.
Well, and that's the other thing. Someone doesn't like what you say, so they flag it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I hate people. Yet,
But if we really hated people, we wouldn't make content for people.
No, I mean,
Now,
yes,
you and I
yes.
both make the show because we love making the show at this point. But we definitely at least started it to try to be entertaining.
Plus, it gives me an excuse to meet people that I've seen nude on film.
Right.
There you go. There you go.
I was so now that I have some grease juice in me. My family's in, so my cousins flew in from Texas to surprise my mom. So I live you live in New Mexico. You don't probably watch football whatsoever. But we live about 30 miles from Green Bay. So Packers, the state shuts down on Sundays. So we went to my parents for a Packer party because my mom has one every year. So my cousins called me and they're like, "We're flying in. We're surprising your mom. Don't say a word." So they came up to our house yesterday and I was explaining to them because they had no idea I did a podcast because I don't just walk around and be like, "Hey guys, I do a podcast. Listen to me tell dick and fart jokes on the internet once a week." And I'm like, it's so weird. It's like I've seen this lady naked and now I'm going to talk to her and I have to be professional. And they're like, "Well, don't tell her that." I'm like, "Well, I'm going to get a bunch of beer in me and I'm going to tell her and it's going to be a situation." And they're like, "Well, just don't make an ass out of yourself." And I'm like, "Well." So
it's okay. Pretty much I know everybody who interviews me has seen me naked.
Which is
trying to figure out if I can how I can get $1 for everybody. And I'm wondering if I could charge $1 per or just
well, you have two. You should get $1 per.
I'm paying one of each, and then so everybody sends me $2 because I'll be really golden at that point.
Yeah. But that's kind of like a power move because you have to understand that 90% of people you meet probably have seen you naked, and they're just like,
I know, it's true. It's like, hey, everybody I meet, I'll go, "Hey, $2. I know you've seen it. Come on."
Is that at all uncomfortable for you?
Not really. Okay. No, not really. I do more, with, more like with Dad.
Yeah. So I guess now you're like, how do your parents feel about this?
My poor mom, she took to bed 3 days after seeing it. She doesn't like to begin with. And then seeing her daughter murdered absolutely traumatized her. And she really went to bed for 3 days.
I honestly only thought about the fact that it's like they may have been upset that you were naked, not the fact that you got just fucking slaughtered shortly thereafter.
No, the nudity really didn't bother them that much, other than okay, But no, it was Mom had a problem with seeing me killed. It was really upsetting to her.
Wow, I never thought about that portion.
That.
Yeah,
that makes total sense. I would not.
It looks like you guys lost me somehow.
Yeah, the camera's kind of going in and out.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Well, maybe it'll come back here in a minute.
It's probably your cactus internet out there in New Mexico.
I live in the mountains.
So you're snow? I don't know. It snowed here. I don't know how.
The pine trees.
Pine trees. All right. Like, I don't know what the mountains of New Mexico are like. I've never been there.
Oh, it's beautiful here.
It snowed here yesterday, which is a little early for that shit.
Oh yeah,
I actually don't even know. I live in Wisconsin and Corey's in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Corey moved back from California, so he moved from the nice warm weather to lake effect snow.
Let's refrain. It did just snow this week. My wife was really into it until this morning when she went to go get coffee and had to wait for her windows to defrost. But we also moved back in the last month, and now all of the air quality where we live is rated almost uninhabitable because of all the fires and stuff in the areas. Or not even like close to where we were at this point, but just the smoke has hit the Bay Area so bad that it's a constant haze over it. A few months ago, we had
so sorry.
Yeah, we had fires back in July, and I got a lung infection from it that put me out for about a week. And that was a year after the fires that people that I know lost their homes in. So, yeah, today it snowed, and that made it a little inconvenient.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. I'm so sorry. Let me just ask my husband something real quick. Hang on.
Yeah.
Do you think you can try and pause this? They've lost my, they've lost me on here. Can you try and pause that? Pause your TV show for me, please.
Damn.
Thanks. It might bring it back. We may just have, our bandwidth may not be very high right now.
I'm impressed with your use of the word bandwidth right there. Just throwing that out there. Corey and I both work in IT, so we're very impressed right now.
Nice. I know who to call when I have problems.
Yeah, that's.
You shouldn't have admit that to me.
No, it's fine. Like I said, I was at my parents, and they moved the Packer game from noon to 3:30. But I'm like, we still got to go early. Family's showing up, so we were there with the majority of the people for about an hour and a half, and never fails. In 90 minutes, at least one person's like, so I got this computer problem. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, it's Sunday and I've been drinking all day. Like, do we have to do this?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm the opposite of Matt, which is I kind of long for that. I like helping people. And I'm in between jobs.
What's your number again?
We'll get my email before we hang up. Yeah, so anybody randomly hits me up or if I see somebody who's struggling with something online and I'm just like, well, let me see what I can do. I try to always come at it with the point of view of like, I may not be able to solve your problem. And I don't want to make you feel like you can't solve it yourself. But if I can help, let me know and I'll do my best to help, or I'll help you find the place to find the right help.
Sounds good to me. Just let me have that phone number.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got.
Hey, honey, Deborah Voorhees asked for my phone number. Take that.
Damn it, you got one up on me now? Bitch.
Don't worry, I'll ask for your phone number.
I will help you way better than Corey. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
This is turning into a really weird letter to Penthouse, but all right.
I never thought Corey and I would get in a fight over who could tech support Deborah Voorhees harder, but that's currently happening.
Whereas I always knew this is where our relationship was going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go tell my wife this story afterwards, and she's just going to be like, shut up and pick up the dog poop. She's like, you're a nobody. That was a fun little conversation. I feel like there was something that was really like on track that was supposed to happen with Lost Boys. Yeah, we got to talk about Lost Boys.
That's right.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so we should apologize. We didn't quite bring across what the show was to Deborah.
Yeah, I fucked the dog
before she
real
came.
hard on the description of how we did this. We can blame this one on me.
Flappy ears make my nipples hard. So Deborah didn't realize that it wasn't a show where we were doing a
Live watching.
Yeah, like a Mystery Science Theater 3K. It that we watch the movies ahead of time, then we review them. So she has not seen the movie recently. On the other hand, it's Lost Boys.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
Deborah, are you using Windows or Apple products?
Well, I have both, but the one I'm on is Windows.
Okay, that nothing to do with the video. Beat says that he hopes that you call Corey about Apple products just to fuck with him, and I'm on board with that because I have an iPhone and I've had Apple computers, so you can call Corey, and when he can't sasatisfy you, I will.
I've had Apple computers, and my wife has a new iPhone, so I'm fine. Also thinking about getting a laptop that I can put Linux on. So,
dude, so funny story. I was at a gas station. I broke the card reader. I was trying to pay, and I wiggled it, and the power popped out, and it turned back on. And as it was booting, it popped up, and it said Linux inside, and I was just like, huh. I never really thought about what operating system a credit card reader has. Turns out it's Linux.
Oh, that one was. And that depends on if you didn't actually pop a fake card reader that was put on top of it to scan your cards.
No,
so
I mean, I was in a Quick Trip, which is a very popular gas station in the Wisconsin and Minnesota area, in Seymour, Wisconsin, home of the hamburger. Population probably like 950 people. So if someone wanted to get my card number there, they can have it and hopefully pay my student loans.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
What, stealing someone's card number?
No, to get somebody else to pay your student loan.
Fuck, right? I know. Every year my mom's like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I'm like, "A $40,000 gift certificate to the U.S. government for my student loans."
That's right.
I'm just gonna learn how to sculpt satanic idols and see if I can get them onto a Netflix show without anybody paying me.
There you go.
All right, third attempt at actually talking about the Lost Boys.
Okay, cool.
Corey, you're
Yes,
up.
sir.
You're up.
Oh, okay. So first of all, I think it's pretty well known on this podcast by now. Corey is not my real name, and
God damn it, we're doing this again.
the reason that Corey
It
is
took
my
like
name,
80 episodes for me to figure out that Corey was not his real name. By the way,
yeah, we knew each other for a little over a year or two.
I just never thought you'd lie to me like that.
But my mom wanted to name me Corey Scott. It was just different context and different spelling. And the reason why my name is spelled Corey is because of the Coreys, because of Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Oh, really?
And yes, and so it was around the time of this movie coming out is when I started going by Corey, and that is exactly why I am kind of named for the actors of this movie.
Interesting.
That is how big this movie was in my circle of friends at the time that it came out, and the age group that I was, because I'm basically the same age as Corey Feldman is and Corey Haim when he was alive. We were around the same age. So yeah, so this was a big deal to me as a kid.
Well, you can tell me later what your real name is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's Donald.
Donald.
Yeah,
but the
it's
whole
so
name is
fucking
different.
far from Corey. Like when he told me that, I was like, whatever.
And it's not like it's Donald Corey or Donald Scott or anything. It's like a totally different name. I'm a third. I'm named after my dad and my grandfather. So it's as far away from the Corey Christian Scott that I go by is. And it's not like a secret. It's not like I'm hiding who I am. It's just that I've gone by Corey Christian Scott since I was 16.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's your name.
Yeah, exactly.
But
there was contention when I married my wife a few years ago as to what name we were going to get married under, and if it was going to be Aaron Scott, if it was Aaron Cantwell, if it was Aaron Temerity, because I was like, I could just change my name to Captain Temerity, which I've gone by even longer. And Aaron Temerity has a really great ring to it. And then she just continues to sign her original name to all of her artwork and outcool me anyway. So I'm just might take her O'Kelly. But at any rate, Lost Boys was was 1985, 87?
87.
87. It was basically originally supposed to be kind of like The Goonies.
right.
Which is good because it includes a Goonie. And it was supposed to be younger kids, but it's a play off of the idea of the Lost Boys from Peter Pan and the Neverland stuff about kids who never get old, but turned into a vampire story, which is a pretty cool way to go. When Joel Schumacher came in, he wanted it to skew a little bit older. He had just a couple years before done St. Elmo's Fire, which was sort of like the last bastion of the Brat Pack of those teen actors and stuff, as they kind of like went into their not teenagers anymore, but being young adults. So he was amping up the sex. He was kind of Dallasing 90210ing it a little bit and making it more of a adult film than what it was still supposed to be. But it is still really rang with the teenagers. And it made vampires cool. In a way that they hadn't really been portrayed as before. I mean, we had who was it? It was George Hamilton,
Right.
as a vampire in a comedy movie and stuff. But this was like the cool teenager vampires and the subculture of goths and stuff bringing out in the portrayed in the movie as Santa Carla, but it was Santa Cruz, which is a place that I kind of lived at for a few years out in the Bay Area and in California. And Santa Clara as well. But those places were like the big backdrop of this. So it's got that rock and roll culture, that goth punk culture, It introduced a lot of young actors who were just kind of breaking onto the scene. Jason Patrick, who came into this, was the one who pitched for Jamie Gertz to be a part of it because they just worked together in Solar Babies. The two Coreys getting together. It was the first time, but it was going to be like the next several years was going to be a bunch of stuff of them working together with License to Drive and Dream a Little Dream, and just going on, even to the point where we get to the sequels of this later on. And their friendship kind of like is a big thing of what the culture is of this. Kiefer Sutherland was still very new. He had been in Stand By Me before this, but this was his first big role. And yet at the same time, he has not a lot of lines in this. It's just that his presence is so big that he's what you instinctually think of in the film. Diane Lee plays kind of the same mom character she plays in Parenthood a couple years later. Is just terrific, but has that kind of mousy, can't control her kids thing, but it's still just wonderful and loving and fun. The grandfather is cantankerous. All of that is great, and all of the characters are great, and I don't want to discount any of them, but I cannot talk about this movie if we don't talk about the guy without the shirt playing the saxophone, which I think might have been the last for saxophone players and rock bands being cool. Because it went right from this to Dave Koz and Kenny G, and it's like, shit, what happened? Like suddenly we didn't hear Huey Lewis on the radio anymore. Something went wrong, and I think it was this guy. But this guy is really fucking cool, singing shirtless on the boardwalk, playing the saxophone, just sweating up a storm. And that guy, I guess, played for Tina Turner, played on We Don't Need Another Hero and the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome soundtrack, playing his band in leather Speedo all the time. So, like, he was the shit. And I just think after that, there was no way that you could ever compare to that level. So saxophones had to go. We probably would have gotten harmonicas again in bands before we got, in fact, we did. We got Blues Traveler. Hey, 2 weeks in a row, we got to mention Blues Traveler on the show.
Please stop.
Never. Ken Ober and I believe in Blues Traveler. Yeah, so the Lost Boys, basically the story is that this mom and her 2 sons move into this California town with their grandfather because the mom's recently divorced and she's having trouble keeping things together, needs a job, needs help with her kids. They're both teenagers and they're kind of pains in the asses. So they move into this middle of nowhere place. I love the line of, do you see TV? No, there's no TV. Do you know what that means? No MTV. Like MTV was the thing that you had to have as a teenager in the middle of the 80s.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly the culture of what this movie is that this is the MTV generation at its zenith. Before they introduced any kind of Real World or other shows about pseudo-reality. It was when it was still music videos all the time. Also, this soundtrack was a huge thing, but it's almost all covers of other songs that just tertially kind of go with things. But the Echo and the Bunnymen song of People Are Strange is just phenomenal and still holds up today. Anyway, so they get to this town, and the 2 brothers go out, and they're hanging out on the boardwalk, and the older one, played by Jason Patrick, Mike, he sees this girl Star and starts following around, but Star is hanging out with these other guys who ride motorcycles, and they're all way cooler, and Michael knows he can't compete with them, but they kind of like pull him along and like, hey, come hang out with us. And he goes and he hangs out with them at their cave that they kick it in, that is a place that was that happened because of the earthquakes a few years before, and they convince him to eat Chinese food, but sometimes it doesn't look like Chinese food. It looks like maggots or it looks like worms. And then they have him drink some wine that Star tells him is blood. And he's like, you guys have fucked with me enough. And they start to turn him into a vampire like them. Meanwhile, the younger brother is a comics nerd, which they really try to paint at you by saying, "Oh, I'm looking for Batman number 14. There's only 4 in existence." No, there's not. That's bullshit. But he hangs out in this comic shop run by this couple who are just constantly unconscious. So their 2 sons take over the place, the Frog Brothers, which is like, I don't know what those guys were supposed to be. They constantly come across like, we're badasses, we kill vampires, this whole town is full of vampires, read the comics that we're handing you to protect yourself. And then they're just like, they're full of shit. We find out as it goes along, they're just completely full of shit. They're not wrong. They're just not experienced vampire killers. It's like Mac and Charlie on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in one of their adventures. I think that might be who Mac and Charlie are based off of, is the Frog Brothers of the modern day. But so Michael starts to develop powers and abilities, but doesn't know how to control them. Finds out that he's half turned, but he and Star and this little kid Laddie, who hangs out with Star, who has the coolest jacket in all existence, straight out of a My Chemical Romance video, they won't become actual vampires until they actually kill somebody. And David was supposed to be Star's first kill. Not David. Michael was supposed to be Star's first kill that David decided instead to help turn him. And that may or may not have something to do with the head vampire who wanted Michael to be turned, as well as Sam, his little brother, so that he could entice their mother into becoming a vampire too. He wants a bride. And so it basically comes down to a power battle between Michael, David, the other vampires, and them taking these guys down, trying to get Michael and Star turned back into normal humans before they accidentally go too far deep and kill somebody and fully turn. And it leads to the ending of the film, the big final showdown. One of the things that's interesting about the final showdown is that all the vampires, when they are killed, explode or implode or do some massive destructive stuff. The only one who doesn't is David, who is impaled on these horns on a deer head. The grandfather's a taxidermist, essentially, not by trade, I think just for funsies. And he doesn't explode because the intent that Joel Schumacher had was to do a sequel to this movie called The Lost Girls a couple years later to have that character come back. The character did come back in a comic series from Vertigo Comics not too long ago. But Schumacher could never get the sequel made. It wasn't until, I think, 2008 or something when the Lost Boys sequel came out, the first one, and then they had another one a couple years later, which actually brought in the other Frog Brother. I have those other 2 movies. It was my intent to watch all 3 of them, and I couldn't get myself to do it, so I watched Friday the 13th instead. But yeah, that's the kind of the gist of the film.
It's more than a gist. That was a Corey being Corey. And now
Yeah,
Kiefer
That was
Sutherland's
an excellent outline.
I fell asleep, actually. I love you, Corey.
Yeah, just keep in mind, he falls asleep when he's supposed to be paying attention to you. You want my phone number. And since I know his wife watches it.
I get it done quicker than
Deborah,
I fall asleep doing it.
You're the one who suggested Lost Boys. Now, I have a thought as to why, but you did say to us at the beginning it's because you hadn't seen it in a while and you thought it might be fun to do.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in so long. In fact, and I was thinking about it, it's been longer than 10 years because I was actually fairly young at that time. So, it's been on my list of things that I wanted to go back and rewatch. Because it's, I just remember it being cool and hip and fun and, all those kind of good things.
I'm trying to recall when I first saw this movie, and I can't, which kind of sucks for the sake of the story. But I think it's a great movie, and there was a lot of really fun things that they did, and I think it was Twilight before Twilight was a thing. Right. There's less sparkle, but there's still that teenage like love story involved.
Right. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theater.
I saw it at a drive-in.
Well, I was 2 years old when it came out. Just throwing that out there. I'm sure I was.
I was not too.
I'm sure I was in high school. Well, you're what, 27 right now?
Yeah, something
So,
like that. Add 30 years to that.
No. We'll just leave it at 27. You'll be 27 forever. It's all right. Yeah, I'm certain I watched it in someone's basement in high school, and it was like kind of what you guys said, where it's like, hey, you just got to watch this movie. So you watch the movie. And it's always been a really good movie. I think what the biggest memory I have is the People Are Strange. Now, Corey, who originally did that song? Do you know?
That's the Doors.
That's what I thought. Okay. So when I was in high school...
A big Jim Morrison poster hanging up behind them in the cave.
Yep. Which makes sense. Now, I was never a Doors fan. Shocker, I know. But the rap duo Twisted covered People Are Strange on their second studio album, which, if you listen to the show, you'll know my secret love of the Insane Clown Posse and Twisted. So that song came out before I would have ever seen this movie. So when I saw it, it was kind of have that memory tied to this movie. That and vampires. Like I think everyone loves vampires because every girl secretly loves vampires. And I just wanted to touch a boob.
Deborah, my connection kind of goes in and out on these with the current setup since I moved to this new office. But did you mention the fact that, because what I was kind of leaning towards was Corey Feldman was, of course, in your movie,
Right.
In a cameo, and then this is a horror movie with Corey Feldman in it years later.
Mm-hmm.
Was that part of the reason of choosing this, or was that just kind of a happy accident?
No, it was, of course, I was aware that he's in it. But yeah, I didn't choose it for that reason, just more that I have good memories from seeing it, even though it's been so long. But I did. I mean, the first time I saw it, I'm quite sure it was in the theater. Later, I know I watched it on VHS, but I'm sure I watched it in the theaters. It was just, it was just a good movie. I remember really enjoying it. I thought, I just don't remember a lot of details about it. I want to see it again.
I don't think they make movies like they used to. And maybe it's just because of all the adolescent memories that are tied with movies, but I feel the same way about cars. It's like you see people who are driving like, oh, I got this 65 Mustang, and it's like, who's going to be like, hey, I got this 2015 Toyota Honda Pilot that I'm looking for. And I think it's kind of the same thing with movies, where it's like, Lost Boys came out in '87, and I got, this was happening, and we like Corey said, we saw it at a drive-in theater. Who's going to be like, yeah, I saw the fourth Avengers movie at a drive-in theater?
Well, I might be next year.
Do you have a drive-in theater by you?
There are drive-in theaters by us, so that's kind of thing. It's like that can happen again.
I thought I lived in bumfuck.
Well, I keep telling the wife that the one thing that Michigan has that California doesn't is land. And so when we go into the Myers or we go into the Walmart by us, they're just giant places, and the parking lots stretch on forever because why wouldn't they?
I do. Since you said Meyer, I do want to publicly thank friend of the show, Mike, for sending me the 12 Days of Milkshake Stout in the mail.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad you got that.
I have drank 3 of them already. I got it in the mail Friday.
You've drank 3 of them. I just sent you the picture, I think, on Monday.
I am a man of action.
You
sent me that picture on Monday. I had that box of beer on Friday.
Wow.
That's what happens when you make friends. So yeah. I owe him a beer. I will get to Michigan. I will buy you a beer.
I don't think you're buying me a beer.
No. I'm buying you a nice iced tea. I'm buying Mike a beer.
Yeah, if you can find, I can't find any like spectacular root beers out here. I'm really bummed about that. Anyway, yeah. So I was 16 when this came out, and so we were right at the age where we were going to drive-in movies. My friend Johnny had a car, and we would pile into it. Or my friend Paul's Mustang. Way too many people would fit in that fucking thing. So, but this was kind of phenomenon and a breaking out point for the actors, for the Coreys, because before this they were considered child actors, and this is when they're on that cusp of getting older and getting cool. Corey Haim, before this, I think his last role had probably been Lucas, where he was a nerdy kid, and kind of like played second fiddle to Charlie Sheen for Girls' Affections. But it's a really sweet movie, and I watch it all the time. Young Winona Ryder in that. And Corey Feldman was in Goonies and things like that, but in a ton of stuff before that. I break up again?
No, you're good. I was just reliving my hatred for Goonies because of the amount of money I lost in a Goonies slot machine in Vegas.
No.
Now fucking Corey could dip out. True story, though. I lost a lot of money in that Goonies slot machine. We never lost you, and then you just ran away.
No, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, that's fine.
So what happens is the audio starts clipping for you guys, and as much as it's already a one-sided show with how much I talk, I still like to enjoy your conversations as much as possible.
Which is weird, because my wife probably wish I would clip in real life.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to, just the one ball. Anyway.
Jesus, I only have one that works, man. You gotta bring
I don't even know if that works. Works is a kindness. I don't think that's true.
You were saying?
Yeah. I remember buying the soundtrack. I remember having this and listening to this soundtrack all the time. This thing was like, it wasn't like it was my favorite movie, but it was certainly a movie that I watched a lot, that my friends watched a lot, that we referenced a lot. And at that point in time, it was just so clearly like, this is what the time is. And this is when we're
I'm losing you guys.
Yeah, Corey's dropping out on me too. It's not only you.
And I don't know what's wrong with mine, except for maybe my husband doesn't understand that streaming. I'm going to see if I can figure that out. Hang on just a sec.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
All right, now the gang's all here.
Yay.
You guys and your crazy backwoods internet.
You've seen my speed test, man.
I know your internet trumps the shit out of mine, and for some reason I don't have problems and you do.
Get over here. Yeah, and I'm sure it's more computer related than anything.
Yeah.
So Deborah, having been in horror movies, what is it about a movie that makes it appeal to you? And is Lost Boys is it a favorite? Is it just something that you've seen and you're like got an appreciation for it? But what do you look for in something like this?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely would say it's a favorite, even though it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's a movie that I really enjoyed. But I'm looking for something with a really good story, something where I really care about the people. If I don't care about them, then it's like, you don't care what happens to them. And so I get bored with it really fast. So I feel like I need to really care about them. I want to, I like the scares to a point. To me, one of the scariest things in a movie is, going down that empty hallway and there's that scary music going and there's a door open in the back and something's going to jump out. It's like, waiting for that Jack in the Box to pop up out of there, it's coming, but you're still going to end up jumping. But for me, mostly it's a story. I like monsters where they have some depth and you understand who they are and what they are, and they're not 100% bad. There's something about them that's relatable.
Did you see the new Halloween by chance?
I have.
We already did an episode, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but did you feel like maybe bits of it were a little too predictable, jumpiness wise?
Overall, I really enjoyed the film. I liked the relationship with the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter. I did care about them. I didn't want to see them hurt. Yeah, I found it interesting. I also like the way it opened up. Because interestingly, having Michael in the insane asylum actually gave a little bit of empathy for him. It made him feel a little bit human. No, once he puts on the mask, not so much. But while he was in there, certainly. So yeah, no. Overall, I thought it was really good. The scene with the light outside, the motion light detector.
Yeah.
That was really good and really intense. And, they had some really intense kills too. That I thought, the special effects and stuff was really well done.
Well, I thought it was strange how they kind of masked a lot of the gore up until the end.
Right. Yeah, they actually did. You're right. They really did.
Yeah. Which, obviously, if you want to hear recording, I thought about that movie I listened to 2 weeks ago. But we're talking about The Lost Boys, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So The Lost Boys only really is gory in the kills and the destruction of the vampires. But up until that point, when you see the vampires kill people, it's almost always happening off screen. At first, it's kind of like is it them? Is it not them? What's going on? It's a slow burn to get to the point where you start to realize who these guys are and what they actually are, which I think is good because The Lost Boys could have been about anything. And obviously, it's become iconic as a vampire movie. But when you went in the first time, you don't have to necessarily know that's what it is exactly.
Right.
It was more of a rival gang thing between them and the surf Nazis that they keep butting heads with. And, of course, the authority figures on the boardwalk, which is why you buy into David's relationship with Max. If, Max wants them not to be in the video store, and you don't realize that there's something deeper there until later on.
Right. Yeah, I think I really do like that when a movie kind of moves into that slowly when there's a buildup. Very often things that are off screen, I think, impact us more. I can't tell you how many fans have told me and believe wholeheartedly that they saw the garden shears go through my eyes.
Right.
There was no prosthetic head ever done. You don't ever see it, but the sound effects are so powerful in that you feel like you have seen it, even though you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the reveal of you after of your character, let's keep things separate, is I mean, it is a payoff of that moment because you see the effect of it.
Right.
But your mind fills in the blanks, and that's what traumatizes us, is the things that our heads will paint pictures of are the worst things.
Right. Absolutely. I had one guy who was telling me, he said, "Oh, it looks so fake the way they put the garden shears through your eyes." I was like, they never showed that.
Nope.
I thought it was so funny.
So do you still do a lot of conventions and stuff?
I've only actually done a couple. Sean Clark is my convention agent. He had been after me to try and do some, but I had different issues. Well, one, trying to keep a job they were going to fire me in the first place. But
fuck 'em.
I know, I should have gone.
Yeah.
But I went to Texas Frightmare and really enjoyed it. Had a really nice time. And so, yeah, then I decided I was going to go to some. So I've been to 2 now, and hopefully somebody else will invite me.
Well, it sucks. There's one in Chicago next weekend that Schlitzie in our chat, him and I are actually going to. We're sidebarring
neat.
about that. Yeah, I paid for the photo op with Sid Haig and Bill Moseley in full Captain Spaulding and Otis ritual paint, makeup. And I was arguing because the guy who tattooed Captain Spaulding on my back is the guy I'm going with. And I'm like, we have to fucking get this picture, because if we don't, we're dumb.
Right.
It's like, I have it on me and you've done it. Like, you have to do this.
Absolutely.
But where I was going with it is like, you should really next year go to this one, and then we'll go out and get.
What is the name of the one in Chicago?
It's Days of the Dead.
Okay.
So it's the Days. I think Days of the Dead's in like 5 or 6 cities, and then this is just the Chicago one. I mean,
that's terrific.
Yeah. So next year, put that on your bucket list. That's what I keep telling people. It's like, come towards me, hang out. It'll be great for you, better for me.
Cool.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to do those more.
So since you're taking other people out for beer, will you take me for a glass of wine?
Fucking course. As long as you let me stop at 3 to 5 breweries on the way there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know that's like I said, that my tattoo artist / friend is the one that I'm going with, and he's like, we're going to Schaumburg, and I said, cool, we have to go to this brewery, this brewery, this brewery. They're on the way. I'm like, here's a map. There's a burger place nearby too. We're gonna do this all, and he's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, cool. But yeah, of course I'll take it. There's I don't drink wine, but I live not far from Door County, which is the thumb of the state of Wisconsin, and there's a lot of wineries up there, and I hear it's pretty good.
Oh, nice.
So I would gladly
I've
bring
had some really nice Wisconsin wines.
Okay, I don't doubt that, but this is not a conversation I have any sort of game in, Door County's known for cherries, so if there's any sort of cherry and Door County cherry, I can reference that.
Okay.
Like I was mentioning, my family's in town, and they were talking about a wine of the month club, and I'm like, I don't get it, but okay. I have bottles of beer that I've paid way more money for than I really should have, but to each their own.
Yeah, and I lived in Sonoma County, and Napa County is right next to us. So, I mean, I was in all the winery areas, and I had clients and stuff when I would go and fix people's computers on site where they would give me bottles of wine to take with me. And I haven't drank alcohol in the last 20 years. So it was always kind of like I'd go back and make my managers really happy, hand the bottles over to them.
Oh, I bet.
But some of my best friends out there are really big in the wine scene and are always at the different places and stuff, hanging out at Les Claypool's winery and stuff, and are friends with him and a bunch of the other places, the Olivet Road and stuff. So I have an appreciation for that stuff. But yeah, it's one of the things that was big for me out there was we had local weekly horror shows on the local channels. So San Francisco, there was a channel Coffee that did a creepy coffee movie time. I have one of the stalagmites from the show that I won after the show went off the air. They auctioned off a bunch of the props and stuff from it. So that came out from California with me. And now there's a new Creature Features out there hosted by Vincent Van Dahl and Livingston as Butler and Tangella. And it's really cool because it involves John Stanley's original Creature Features and all of the people from that, and they get all these different people who are from horror, sci-fi, and stuff to be on it. And what I'd love to see is more of that stuff locally. And it seems like someone like you or some of the people that you associate with in your local areas should be able to either be a part of that if it already exists there, or start something like that. Because I think the world needs more Elvira's, and it needs more John Stanley Creature Features and those kind of things. We had one in Detroit that I remember as a kid growing up. It's always important to me to see horror movies kind of pushed forward to the next generation and be something that everybody gets to see. And Saturday nights seems to make the most sense, but I remember watching them Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings. They would go from like playing the cartoons and maybe some Abbott and Costello to playing a couple hour horror movie block.
Right.
And I think that's something that with this generation, obviously we can do the stuff online. The Creepy Coffee movie time people are planning on redoing the show and doing it as an online show now, which is great. But your local community, there's probably a lot of people there who would love to be a part of that or have something like that around them. And when you get something like that as the center, then people can kind of gather and do something more with it, and you get more involvement.
Right. I think that's a great idea.
And I mean, especially because you write and produce and direct and act, it might lead to more projects that you could be involved in, or build more of a foundation around you to make those projects happen faster and more often.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it's a great idea. That would be fun too.
So I should probably bring things full circle. Is there anything else to cover about Lost Boys? I mean, we could sit here and probably talk all night, and as fun as it would be, I think we probably all have lives to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have you back again.
And we won't make you talk about the sequels.
Okay.
We can talk about whatever you want. I've never seen the sequels. If that's what you want to talk about, then that's what we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have no other points to make about the movie, which Corey pretty much covered everything.
Right.
It's a good movie. We rate it on a 0 to 5 scale. Nothing super fancy. Just give it a number. You can give it an explanation if you want. As our guest, Deborah, you have to go first.
All right. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's just a fun movie. Something, I remember it as hip and cool. Perhaps if I go back and look at it now, I'll go, wow, it's dated, but maybe not. And I love the soundtrack and all of that to it. So you've got some great characters in it. So a 4.
Classic. Yeah. Can't argue with that. Corey, how about you?
I completely agree. The 4 is also my score. I think the only thing really dated about it is the outfits, the looks. It was amazing to me how much it didn't feel dated, and the jokes and stuff hold up pretty well. It is some of these people at their finest, just like if not necessarily going well outside of the roles that we know them for and other things, just nailing those roles so well in this. And I think it's as far as Shoemaker stuff, it's probably my favorite thing that he's done that I can think of, which is still kind of early for him in how he's going to get with Hollywood later on. And I think it still holds up. It's also, I think, I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but it seems like the Echo and the Bunnymen Doors cover in this kind of maybe help lead to the Doors rediscovery and the Doors movie coming out a couple years later with Val Kilmer.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I
love the Doors.
That makes sense. I guess you're of that era. There's nothing wrong with that. I gave it a 3.5. Like I said, it's a great movie. A lot of good memories. It's a really classic vampire movie. It's a little dated in terms of effects and their wardrobe and everything, but you have to kind of understand that it was made in the 80s and everything gets I don't want to say a pass, but it's explained that way.
Also, it's kind of a pre-Scream in the sense that because they have rules that they understand about the vampires, is kind of like what Scream does with horror movies. If you're being chased by a serial killer in a horror movie, they define those rules in that film, and they define the rules of the vampires in this, and they do it a lot in the comics. But they're sitting there like, oh, well, you got to do this, you got to stab through the heart and everything. And I think that was. I don't know that a lot of movies had done that the same way before that. They talk about it a little bit here and there, but like they really, like when they reveal you can't invite a vampire into your house because it takes away all your power. They're like, did you know that? And the Frog Brothers like, yeah, of course we knew that. Everybody knows that. But that was the first time I remember in a movie having those statements. And it is kind of we know what we're dealing with. It's a little tongue in cheek. And I think Scream maybe owes a little bit to that.
Right.
Setting the rules for horror movies. Yeah, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, can you read the outro, or is it too far away?
It's a little far away from me.
All right. You can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. You can email us at pot@gncast.com. You can leave a message on our website. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Podcast of Terror. You can subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers. Leave us feedback as well. Somehow, 2 of our reviews on iTunes have disappeared. I don't even fucking understand anymore. If you really want to, you can go to bit.ly/potreview. You can review the show there. All subscription options and links can be found at gncast.com/subscribe, and you can follow the entire network on Facebook under the Collider Network. If you want to give us money without actually giving us money, go to amazon.podcastterror.com. Shop like you normally would. We get a cut of that. Costs you absolutely nothing. Helps keeps this show free for you. Deborah, thank you very much. It's been pretty unreal. It's an absolute honor.
Actually, that's something to bring up right there, is if you go to amazon.podcastterror.com, I believe it also will help us if you are renting movies to watch on Amazon Prime, if you're not already a subscriber. And Deborah has movies on Amazon Prime that you could be watching.
Fantastic.
Yes. Now,
I so appreciate it. I've really enjoyed talking to both of you.
Like I said, it's an honor. It's pretty unreal to be able to say that I've now had an at-length conversation with someone that is in one of my favorite movies. This is your opportunity to hawk any sort of social media. As mentioned, the Indiegogo for 13 Fanboy will be in the show notes, but obviously mention that again.
Yeah, and if you guys anybody's on Facebook, come over to my horror group. It's Deborah Voorhees Sheer Horror, and it is sheer like the garden shears. Come on in and join us. And gosh, guys, I thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
you can kind of tell the quality of a person by the groups and stuff, that if you have a Facebook page, the kind of people on that page, and the people on your page are really fantastic. You know, I've been there just a couple of weeks, but they've all been really fun, and you're great at inviting people when they show up. You say thanks to these people for joining. Our friend PJ Starks, I just saw him called out on the page the last couple of days. It's just so awesome to be a part of a community like that. And
thank you.
It's certainly a place where if people are into horror movies, they should go and check out.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You have a fan page too, correct?
No, actually, I haven't done a fan page. Instead, I did the group page.
Oh, okay.
I wanted a place where people could come in and interact more. The page it's not as easy to interact. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Facebook. I should have said that. I've just gotten us banned from all social media for the entirety of my life. Corey, where can people find you if you want them to find you this week?
You know what? I'm going to take this moment to instead talk about my friend Crystal, who I've known for a long time. Recently started her own podcast with a friend of hers called Totally Dysfunctional. It is already way more popular than we will ever be. And for good reason. Crystal is the kind of person who is fearless in everything that she says and talks about. She's the realest person you will ever know. She is funny as shit. She is creative. She is smart. She is a great mom to two wonderful daughters. She's got an incredible husband, Mark, that I've known for years as well. And her show is the funniest goddamn show because she and her friend do not hold back about anything. And they will talk as much shit as you could ever hope for about they've got family members who have mental issues, that they themselves have mental issues because of it. They've grown up with PTSD because of the stuff with their family, and how they deal with that and how they approach it and how they teach people about living your lives and just everything. They did one of their episodes recently was about getting yeast infections and women cleaning themselves after sex and what that's like and stuff. And it was just so crazy because it was like, well, they're not going to talk about that. They're absolutely going to talk about that. And it's language that you can never hear. I obviously, friend of mine, I love Crystal, but I love the show a lot because it's exactly what I would expect from her. And then some. So check out Totally Dysfunctional on all the different podcast places.
Nice.
It really got out of hand.
Yeah, it should.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at Matt the Lifeguard. You really threw me off there, Corey.
You want to tell us about your yeast infection?
What's that, Corey?
You want to tell us about your yeast infection?
Non-existent.
Okay.
It's a short story. Next week, we're going to be talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with host of the Ritual Madness podcast, Greg Chilton. He's also the lead vocalist I almost call him a singer, but he only screams. Minnesota band called Outside the Murder. So yeah, that should be a good time. Deborah,
And
thank
Bill
you.
Moseley in that one.
Yes, yes, which will really, because I will have just touched him. Whether or not I'm supposed to touch him, I will touch him. So I may be in jail next Sunday when we're supposed to be recording that for touching Bill Moseley. But yeah, Deborah, thank you again. It's been unreal.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. But yeah, that's going to do it for another episode of the Podcast of Terror, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Stay scary, everybody.